Diagnosis of women with ADHD has increased in the last few years, and I have some thoughts about this. And this likely applies to people who also experience female hormones in their body, but who do not identify as women. I've actually been having quite a few thoughts on this. I was thinking about how if I had known, then perhaps I could have saved myself some of the pain that I went through if I had understood my brain better. And then I just saw a comment on somebody else's post about neurodivergency from a mother who was saying that us adults talking about our diagnoses don't come close to her experience as a mother raising kids, neurodivergent kids. And I just want to say, like, we were kids. We were those kids. And gosh, do I feel for my parents. Likely they both also deal with some of the things that I deal with. Compulsion and intrusive thoughts and intense emotions weren't just like a quirky thing about me. They weren't just like something that I had to figure out how to deal with. Like, they're intrinsically part of how my brain is structured. And I wish that I would have had adults that I could have talked to who would have seen in me what they knew was within themselves and could have been like pulling me aside and being like, hey, little weird theater girl, this is probably something you're dealing with, and I also deal with this, and just so you know, you might struggle with body image issues, feeling hyper emotional, hypersexual, seeking dopamine and validation. Yeah, I really wish I would have heard that from an adult. And I don't blame any adults in my life for not knowing that, because it was the 90s and early 2000s, like, people couldn't have known that because we just didn't have the information we have now. And there's this article that I'm reading which references like studies and professional opinion, but it's on Psych Central. Anyways, they talk about a list of the different symptoms that women often experience having ADHD, which I thought was just like, it's so nice to see it in a list. And the article mentions how basically through the pandemic, this is where we saw like an increase in women being diagnosed with ADHD because the structural differences in our lives just like completely threw us off. And I'm not kidding. I had my absolute worst mental breakdowns during that time. Like, I felt like I didn't even know who I was. I understood that the pandemic affected everyone, but I was like really struggling. I felt so overwhelmed with the way everything changed so quickly, and I could not put my finger on it. And I watched people in my life, like particularly my partner, who like he could deal with the fact that things had changed. And he was like, well, I'm just going to go outside, go for hikes, go rock climbing. Like, I'm going to do these things. Meanwhile, I'm literally in bed, like actually mentally fucked up all day long. Like, just not even knowing how to function. But this list of symptoms is so interesting. I will list the symptoms in a part 2 because this video is already 4 minutes and we know us ADHD folks are going to have a hard time sticking around that long.